G'day guys, this will be my review of the newly released Pulsar Axion 2 LRF XQ35. During the review I'll be splicing over a heap of clips recorded by the Axion 2. I will note that from what I can see, the recorded videos are highly degraded in detail versus what you see in the eyepiece. To my eye, they're only about 60% quality, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of the device performance in field conditions. Straight up, full clarity, this device was sent to me by Pulsar as I'm a member of their pro staff team. I get to play with the device for a few months before sending it back. No, I don't get paid. Don't worry, as usual, you'll find my review as unbiased and as honest as possible. If you don't, let me know and I'll take that on the chin fair and square. Being a pro staff member just gets me more devices in hand as I can't afford to buy them myself for the reviews. It's a bit of a win-win for everyone. It's only fair that I tell you something. I'm a complete thermal snob. There, it's out. I'm meant to feel better now I've voiced it, but I don't. I'm still a thermal snob. This snobbery is what happens to people that only want the good shit. It's basically 640 or get the F out. This Axion XQ35 is only a 384 by 288 17 micron device. Is it beneath me to use? Let's find out. Here's the clanger. It's actually pretty good, especially when you consider the price point of 3,200 Australian dollars. Yes, always spend more and get a 640 resolution scanner if you can. But if that bite is too much, the Axion 2 XQ35 is definitely a worthy contender. I know a lot of you guys have asked me to review some more budget-friendly thermal devices, so I hope this is more along those lines. I think the overall image from this little device is really good, and there's a few aspects like the removable batteries and the big one, a laser rangefinder, that boost the value factor for the price point. I've had this device out in the field now for about 40 hours all up, which is a fair bit of time. Hopefully I've got a good gauge on it and I can pass that opinion on to you guys. You'll notice some very strange animals viewed in the secondary review clips. That's because I took it to Western Plains Zoo in Dubbo, New South Wales. Certainly something different to do with the thermal. Conditions were what I could only call dog shit, with cold rain, but hey, I was having fun and it's not every day you get to watch a rhino with a thermal. Hopefully I've gauged all the highlights of the device that you guys will want to know about. As usual, this review won't be all arse-licking love because I was sent the scanner. There's a few things I'll nitpick and compare to what else I own and have used in the past. Let's get the dogs out of the room first. I actually didn't rate the original Axion Key 30 all that highly at all. Matter of fact, it was my first thermal device and I very quickly upgraded. Now, when Pulsar released the LRF version of the original Axion series, I was pretty blunt. I just thought, wow, they've literally just tacked a LRF on the side of the body of the original device and they hadn't put a whole lot of development into how that would handle. You know what first surprised me when I took the Axion 2 LRF out of the packaging? It sits really comfortably in your hand. I actually felt a little bad as clearly the design was considered and the ergonomics are excellent. My original opinion was incorrect and this is actually a comfortable thermal scanner to use. I'm not running through all the menus in detail, I never do as it's bloody boring. I will say the buttons are very intuitive, they have a good feel and simple positioning in this layout. I've always found Pulsar menus easy to understand with clear text and images on each specific function. None of those confusing unnamed pictograms some other devices like to confuse us with. Probably the biggest shift in the menus I notice with the new Axion 2 series is the signal amplification. What the F does all that mean? Well, if you've used anything previous Pulsar, you might know that there are 3 preset modes you can select for let's call thermal gain. Rocks, Forest and ID. This is the new difference as they have changed those modes to normal, high and ultra with a series of little arrow bars at the bottom of the screen. They do make a difference to the image and one thing I always enjoy with Pulsar is the 0 to 20 adjustment in both brightness and contrast. That's in addition to the new modes. You can change these settings within each gain mode, 0 to 20. I do like the new method and naming convention and it does make a little bit more sense for simplicity. The build quality, it is typical Pulsar and excellent. This is a magnesium alloy housing and it definitely feels premium when it's in your hand. The lens cap is simple and held out of the way when open with a small magnetic arrangement in the hand strap which works well. Tripod mounting is via this little doohickey which screws into the front of the scanner. It performs the function required, and other than not losing it if it was removed, it works well. The battery, it's removable and the run times are excellent. The battery life seems to be about 5 to 6 hours when running the LRF regularly and recording a bunch of videos. Probably one knock I have on the Axion 2 is it only comes with one battery which you charge in the unit itself with a Type-C USB lead. I feel that this is an area which other brands are jumping ahead by providing 2 removable batteries. It's simple to buy a spare or more than one from Pulsar, but that's another cost if you want to extend the run times without running an external battery pack. The battery itself locks in nicely with this little removable cap, and it's easy to line up. You also get a spare cap in the box in case you lose one. It is worth noting that these new APS-5 batteries do extend the run times of the device over the older Pulsar APS-3 batteries. Same as all Pulsar devices, you have to purchase the proprietary batteries and you can't use, say, a generic 18650 in these devices. Startup time. I've talked about this before. The premium devices from Pulsar, from a completely off state to being on and fully operational, are only a few seconds. The Axion 2 is a little slower than my 3-second Helion 2 XP50 Pro, but it's still only 5 seconds to be fully operational. That's no slouch and smokes most other scanners and scopes on the market for startup time. Considering this range is more compact and budget friendly, Pulsar are obviously not cutting corners in the processor used. On the other side of the deal, once it's up and running, the Axion 2 still has standby mode the same as other Pulsar devices with the little floating icon. A simple solution and one which a user I appreciate. LRF, for those unsure, that being a laser rangefinder. In short, the LRF's excellent. To be completely honest, I'm getting really used to having that in my hand scanner. Now, what I've been doing recently, because this little Axion is so compact, I've actually been going out if I'm on a paid contract and I've been using my much better Helion 2 XP50 Pro thermal scanner, and I've actually taken the little Axion out purely to use the LRF on any of those shots that I need to know a range on. The LRF is rated at 1,000 metres and I've pinged ranges out to about 850 metres off large trees. Practically, it is quite powerful and you'll struggle not to get a range in scan mode, even over a grass paddock out to about 600 or 700 metres. Way further than you'll ever need to shoot at night with a thermal, that's for sure. The LRF is simple to use with a button pressed to activate. Aim the little box at what you want to range. As you press the button a second time, simple. It also has a constant scan mode, but you need to hold the LRF button to enter that as a second step after activation. When the LRF is in use, the little pip, that's picture in picture, at 2x digital magnification is displayed in the image. It's quite a compact little LRF too, which is great to see. The focus, that's nice and smooth to rotate, and I find the speed about right to snap onto a precise image. Depth of focus is nice and broad, even with the 35mm f1 lens. It's not a device I tweak all the time for focus, like my Helion, which is focus fussy under 100 metres. Image, that's about the most important aspect to most people, so let's cover that off. As I mentioned, this scanner is a 384 by 288 17 micron device. The germanium objective lens is an f1 35mm job, and the NEDT rating is sub 40 millikelvin. The biggest thing to take away from that information is the base magnification is 2, with a field of view of 10.7 degrees wide by 8 degrees high. Detection of a deer-sized thermal source is 1300 metres. I've touched on it multiple times in the past. For me, I want my scanner to be under a 2.5 base mag for a wide field of view, but still offering good target detail. I'm glad to see the Axion 2 is now a lower base mag at the 2 mark, which fits the criteria I like. Each to their own, and I can only offer personal opinion after using many different thermal scanners in rolling terrain I often hunt. Higher magnification over 2.5 I find restrictive with the narrow field of view in use. The Axion 2 has 8 different colour palettes. Sounds fancy, but the reality for me is I only use 3 of those: white and black hot plus red monochrome. I've said it before, I really like red monochrome. Even though this scanner is a lower resolution, you still get the depth of colour range to distinguish if something is alive or what might be just a hot terrain feature. Here's an example from a recent rabbit shoot. We had a few different scanners being used between the shooters, and my mate was running a more expensive scanner from a different brand. Even though we had a higher resolution and what I would class as a better overall image, I was still able to correct him on what was an insulated rabbit versus say a rock or a lump of timber, which was still holding heat. That was purely down to how I had adjusted the image in both brightness and contrast. Again, that very handy 0 to 20 range on both of those settings. And in the colour range of red monochrome, making anything alive pop just that little bit more. The reality with most of these thermals in field use, even at the higher resolution, is that a lot of ID is based on body movement. Yes, the image always looks great up close, but even 640 can become blobby as the range extends. As for practical ID ranges, from my experience with the device, insert the thermal snobbery here as it's not a 640 resolution thermal, but for what it is, I've gladly used this little scanner on contract shoots at closer air rifle ranges up to centerfire distances with no issues getting adequate target ID for safe shooting. Moving foxes, I would gauge at around the 2 to 250 metre mark, but that's more based on body movement. Under 150 metres and you'll have less doubt what it is, as more body features like legs and the outline improves with the 384 resolution sensor. Rabbits are more blob-like, being so small until you get under about 120 metres. ID can be tricky unless one hops. Sure, you'll see the heat source of even a small rabbit a few hundred metres out in the paddock, but it's just a heat dot. It's certainly not safe to shoot at things like that without clear ID. Bigger animals like pigs, deer, even up to elephants or giraffes, you'll get a clear outline of what that is much further away. General terrain viewed around anything alive is good and completely adequate for the price point. No, it won't show every blade of grass like my flagship Helion does, but it's worth half as much, so take all that into account. I do notice when comparing side by side to the Helion, the Axion 2 eyepiece screen does seem a little small to view. The Helion 2 is quite immersive viewing with the wide display, but in use, the Axion 2 alone, not swapping from one to the other, doesn't bother me at all. On that eyepiece screen, one thing I spotted in the specs was the lower 640 by 400 resolution. If you start pixel peaking, you will see that lower resolution with the slight lines on the display. Practically, I didn't find it poor at all, and it's still a quality AMOLED display. If you step up to the XG35 Axion 2, that has the higher resolution 1024 by 768 screen, which should be a little bit nicer. On that, everyone raves about the Pulsar Accolade 2 LRF Pro thermal binoculars. They are only a 640 by 480 resolution display too, and I don't hear people complaining about them. It is a much larger screen on the Accolades, so it's all relevant when the little Axion 2 screen is only 640 by 400. Just something to think about anyway. Wi-Fi. I've certainly hammered Pulsar in the past for this. Let's find out if the Axion 2 is the same. Straight up, no it is not. Pulsar have upped the ante on this aspect with a change from 2.4 GHz to 5 GHz on the newer devices like this Axion 2. What's that mean? Well, the connection is stronger and I have experienced 0 dropouts. I've got 0 in capitals on my notes. The initial connection with my Android devices is lightning fast, and you really can tell this is improved with the new 5 GHz Wi-Fi. Awesome stuff if you want to stream an image to a remote screen without latency and dropouts. Device control via the Stream Vision 2 app is excellent, with the ability to cycle colors, all the settings, and trigger the LRF. Pivoting off those positive impressions of the Wi-Fi straight over to the interface on your device, which is the new Stream Vision 2 app. I like the app in use except for one key letdown, that being video or image access on my Android devices. I obviously want to download my footage for YouTube videos, and that means file access via video editing apps. You can easily and quickly download the files into the Stream Vision 2 app on your phone for viewing. The letdown for me is the images will not show up in my phone gallery at all. You can only find a file path via the Stream Vision 2 app. I know I'm not alone here, as I've discussed this with a few people. It's not a deal breaker and you can work around it with a few extra steps. You either need to upload from the Stream Vision 2 app into a Google Drive, then re-download the same clips back into your phone gallery, which is a bit of a pain in the ass and it takes time and does lose some quality. Or just use a computer and drag and drop the files, is what I've been doing lately. Both methods work, but I find it lacking that the original StreamVision app allowed me to simply view the files either in the Pulsar app or in my phone gallery files for simple editing. Video and audio recording. As mentioned, the video quality is not a full visual representation of the eyepiece and what you will see. There's about 40% degradation. I noticed this especially with the clips recorded at the zoo. Admittedly, it was raining, but there's some footage of a giraffe eating a tree. You can see the animal's heat outline and even its tongue, but the tree and branches are nearly invisible on the recording that it was eating. I vividly remember being able to see all that detail in the eyepiece while I made that recording. The video file resolution drops down on the Axion 2 at 528 by 400. I'm going to be honest here and say that if this is a scanner you want to create crisp video recordings for social media or YouTube videos like me, pay the extra and get a Helion 2 XP50 Pro. The gain in video quality is definitely noted. But the reality is, for most, the video quality aspect isn't a big deal, and it's not a reason most would consider as a purchase decision. The device does have audio, which is fantastic, and it records all the icons and LRF display ranges when it's used. If you can see it in the eyepiece or the menu system, it's recorded, which is great. It's awesome to see the journey these little Axion scanners have taken after originally owning an entry-level Key 30 a few years ago. Even in a 384 resolution device, things have advanced with better lenses and functionality. For the price I'm seeing these listed at, which is around the 3,200 Australian dollar mark, if you're looking to spend around $3,000 on a thermal, these are certainly worth a look. You'll enjoy the removable batteries, and the LRF is gold in practical use. Yes, if you can save more in a 4 to 640 resolution scanner, definitely do that. But I know even the step to buy one of these Axion 2s is a big leap. It will be very interesting to see what the soon-to-be-released Axion 2 XQ35 is like. Those guys are a 640 by 480 12 micron version, and I would like to compare those to other similar devices. As users, we're certainly seeing more value and better images in these new devices. It's a technology race, and other than our wallets, we're certainly seeing some great devices coming out now. Big thanks to Pulsar for sending me the device, and also Extravision Australia for the local support. I've got a website link to both of those guys if you want further information. I've also got down in the video description a link to the Hunt the Night website. Using that affiliate link doesn't cost you guys anything, but it helps me along the way with a little bit of additional support. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.